Good morning, everyone, and welcome to an exciting day in Matt Farrowland. This is the second generation 2018 Acura NSX, and I love this car. I've already driven it, actually. I did a bit for Drive on NBC Sports, premiering October 16th, in which I drove this car at Virginia International Raceway. They were kind enough to let me shoot a one-take while I was there, and that will air tomorrow, my track test. This is the street test, which I've actually filmed 3 months after the track test. So, here we are. The new NSX. I got to start with the old NSX because I did love the old NSX. It was a lovely little car, and it was certainly a game changer. NSX stands for New Sports Car Experience. That's actually that's true. And so back then, when it was, old 930 base 911s, the Ferrari 348 and that kind of stuff, the Diablo, the NSX was truly a new sports car experience. Now it's 2018, and we need a new experience. And so that's how it was explained to me as to why this new NSX is a crazy hybrid supercar and not a more simple car like the old NSX. So what is the new NSX? Okay, it's really complicated, but I'm going to give you what I think are the most important basics. It is a 500 horsepower twin-turbo 3.5-liter dry sump V6 in the back. That motor is connected to a 9-speed dual-clutch gearbox. In between the two is a small electric motor. It's about, I think, 40 horsepower, 40 or 50 pound-feet of torque. That electric motor is a torque fill motor as well as a power generator. So that thing is always spinning with the engine, and it is keeping the batteries fully charged so you can discharge that power in terms of speed, and then it's also filling in the gaps in the twin turbo's turbo lag power band. Okay, then you have 2 more electric motors, one for each front wheel, making this car effectively all-wheel drive. What's interesting is that the 2 motors in the front normally if you have an all-wheel drive car, it's connected by some sort of a shaft or a transfer case. With the NSX, the 2 motors are not connected to each other, and they're not connected to what's happening in the back. So what that means is by overdriving or underdriving those front motors, you can create more or less understeer or oversteer. You can add stability in high-speed corners or high-speed bends like Porsche's rear steer does. It's a similar effect with over or underdriving those front wheels. You can drive the car in quiet mode, which is electric only, but most importantly, it really makes this car handle unbelievably well. So let's drive, and I'll tell you more while we're on the road. So, 3,800 pounds is heavy. However, the center of gravity is very low. And with the tight steering ratio, 1.9 turns lock to lock, with the very taut bonded chassis, and there's no subframes. The suspension components go right onto the chassis. Oh, it's fast, kids. It's real fast. Real fast. Double wishbone up front, multi-link in the rear, magnetic ride shocks, constantly adjusting. What this car does better than I think any other car on the market, Porsche Turbo S included, is it manages uneven pavement and bumpy roads. This car gets power down over bumps like literally no car I've ever seen. That was a huge number. This car is so fast. Oh, it's crazy. I love how it gets the power down. Sounds pretty good too. This one has the optional 15-inch ceramic brakes. You can also get 14.5-inch steels as standard. The NSX engineer actually recommended the ceramics for street use and the steels if you're doing track work, just because of how the ceramics break down over very long, sustained braking sessions versus the steels. The steels hold up apparently a little better to 30 or 40 minute, track sessions. whereas the ceramics are excellent if you want to get this thing hauled down. If I didn't tell you, you'd never know that this car has a brake-by-wire system. Brake-by-wire is something that sounds awful until you actually try one that's good. The Volt, I need this guy to get out of my way. The Volt, the Tesla, a lot of electric cars and hybrids have really weird brakes. This one has brakes that feel like normal supercar brakes. Let's hear it in the tunnel. Here we go. From 5. I think it sounds good. It is really a challenge to make a V6 sound good. This one does a good job of making it sound almost turbine-like. The Nissan GT-R does a similar thing. I think it's generally a very pleasant sound. It is nice. It may not be that inspiring sound the same way a Ferrari is, but boy, is it nice. The performance of this car is absolutely staggering, and as you'll see when I push it to the limit on the track tomorrow, brake fade is not happening. Gear changes are slick, smooth. The change in torque when you change the gear is almost imperceptible. The 400 pound-feet of torque is literally a horizontal line on the dyno chart. Starts at 2,000, goes to 65, horizontal line. But the way it pulls out of a corner, there's no understeer on corner exit. It's really amazing. We'll go upper. No understeer, and that's because it overdrives the outside front wheel. Oh, by the way, I have optional Trofeo R tires, which helps keep things sticky. Regarding practicality, okay, I can fit a set of golf clubs in the trunk. I did it. I went golfing. However, I had to take the woods out. I wouldn't want to put anything food-related back there, and I'll tell you why. Not only does it get super hot because it's right where the exhaust is routed, but also, now granted this car only has 1,500 miles on it and it's pre-production, there is a gnarly rubber cement smell every time I open the trunk that seems to stick on everything that comes out of there. So, I don't know, some exhaust might be getting melty with some glue. Hopefully that's not a problem later. Regarding comfort, I'll just slow down because it's hard to talk about comfort while you're whipping. It's comfortable in here. I have shoulder room and head room and leg room. I wouldn't mind 2 extra inches of back, and looking out the forward window is great. However, this side curtain here is really low. And so if I look out the side, I really can only see about 2 or 3 feet off the ground. So I actually have to duck down to look when I'm looking for an address or a store or a driveway, and after a while it kind of hurts my neck. Let's go quick again. Oh, it's so fast, and you know, a lot of people are describing the experience of driving this car who have never driven it as digital and too video gamey. I will say that it is video gamey in terms of the laws of physics that it is seemingly bending. However, I think it does a much better job of bringing the connection between driver and car together than something like the Nissan GT-R. And that could be because it has better steering, very sharp steering. That could be because the center of gravity is lower. The turning radius is actually not great for a car with nothing in the front. And by the way, yeah, no trunk up front, only power steering, electric motors, and radiators. We'll go flat from 1 here. Yeah, it's ridiculously fast. Ridiculously fast. Wow, I like this car so much. The seat is really, really comfortable, especially when you really get into the torque and it shoves you back in the seat. The seat just really hugs you. so nicely. I love how quick the steering is. You can look at my hands and see that I'm really not doing more than 45 degrees of steering angle, hardly ever. The brakes are exceptional. There's not any big wings or anything on the car aside from the optional carbon fiber lip, but there is a lot of aerodynamic work that goes on in terms of under trays and cooling and airflow management around the sides of the car. It really feels like a proper supercar. I feel like maybe the McLarens, especially the 720, could be a little faster in a straight line. And maybe even the Ferrari 88 could be a little quicker in the straight line. This will definitely take a Huracan or an R8 in a straight line, absolutely. But I would say that between this, the McLaren 570 series, and the Ferrari 488, this is half the price of a comparably equipped 488. Half. And that's the same as what an NSX was to a 348 or a 355 back in the day. The NSX, it's not that the NSX should be 80 grand. It's the NSX should be the Ferrari level performance for half the money. And that's what this is. Same with the McLarens. I think this car has behaved itself for me a little more than the McLarens. When I drive the McLarens, something weird always goes wrong, generally electrical, but also dynamically at the front end is where everything happens. Chris Harris said a good driver can always manage the back, but the front needs to stick like glue, and that's where you're winning races, and that's where your great drivers' cars are. And this car has a front end that is the stickiest front end of basically any car I've ever driven, I think. There's nothing you can throw at this front end to really make it understeer. I mean, even when you're going just an incredible pace, what this car will do is it will take this braking that I'm doing and do more regen on the inside wheel while overdriving the outside wheel. That's during braking, to allow you to really dive that nose into the corner and stick it there until you've straightened out on the exit. What a car. And the fact that you can get all of this for only 150 grand is crazy. I'm not sure if this will take the 911 Turbo S I just had. 911 Turbo S beats the NSX in practicality. It has more storage space, it has a sort of usable back seat, it has more headroom and legroom. However, the NSX is an unbelievable supercar. And me and Chris Harris both agreed that when we had this in the track, that we would love to own one. Now, some people will say that these aren't selling well and that they're giving huge discounts. That is true and not true at the same time. There was a lot of cars ordered by dealers that customers didn't want because they were still able to just spec out their own and get it. That's a thing, right? People who are spending $175,000 in a car might want to choose their own options and combos, right? And because they don't have Ferrari levels of demand, you can order a car and you can get it. So while there are a few dealer demo cars floating around at auctions and being discounted, and you can get a nice discount if you find a car you like on the lot, the factory is building these things at capacity. National Pride in me says, shout out to Ohio and all the workers, American workers in this car. This car was co-designed by Japanese and Americans, and it was built in Ohio. So shout out to all the American workers building this unbelievable Japanese supercar. This car is the experience of driving it or riding in it is truly a life-changing experience. I gave all the guys rides who we were doing one take shoot with today, and every single one of them were, while I was driving, they were silent. And then we got out of the car and they went, "How did this car do that?" That was it's the craziest thing ever. I mean, even for me, I've driven the McLaren LTs and the Ferraris and the Huracans and the supercharged Huracans and all this stuff. This car, NSX, new sports car experience. This car provides a truly unique experience, and although I'm privileged enough to be one of the few who've actually driven it, I know firsthand that to be true. So maybe it's a 10th off of McLaren in the quarter mile, and maybe it's a 10th off of this or whatever, and people said that shit about the LFA too, and you know what? The LFA is sick, and the LFA still sells for over sticker even though they haven't made it for 4 years. And this car is like that. Those who will be lucky enough to drive or ride in one will truly understand the greatness of this car. And the people who will judge on the internet without riding in it or driving it, they will continue to do that as well. In my opinion, they will be wrong. This car is fucking spectacular, and it's spectacular on the road, and it's spectacular on the track, and it's practical enough for daily use if it fits you physically. It has no real vices. It's great. It's great. And so hang on, because tomorrow I'm going to show you a shorter one take of me losing my mind driving this thing at the track and sliding it around and having really, the car really made an impression on me at the track, more so even than the road. But thank you to Acura. I begged them for a year and a half to drive this car. It was repeated emails and back and forths and literal begging. They don't have to pay me to say nice things. I begged them for seat time, and they finally got it to me, and the car is everything I thought it would be. So thank you, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.